Hello again. This time I've been thinking about some of the old familiar Bible stories, the stories that kids learn in Sunday school about Daniel and the lion's den, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, or Joseph in his amazing Technicolor dream coat, or at least his coat of many colors. And as I think about those stories, a den of lions? That's pretty scary, isn't it? I mean, lions are okay to see on TV, or if I'm at the zoo and they're enclosed and they can't get to me. But to be thrown into a pit with lions, you better hope that they're practicing social distancing. And I'd prefer not the 6 feet, but the 12 feet that some are saying we need to be. I don't want to be any closer than that to a lion. Scary. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego thrown into a blazing fire? That's terrifying. Well, at least there's Joseph and just his pretty coat, right? Except that that coat was part of the problem that got him in trouble with his brothers, right? And they end up throwing him in a pit and then selling him as a slave. And eventually he ends up in prison. Why do we tell children these stories? Is it to teach a lesson about don't be bad like these people? No, because those people weren't being bad, were they? They didn't get in trouble because they were doing the wrong thing. They were doing the right things. Daniel was doing the right thing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were doing what was right before God, and they got in trouble. Even David, the giant killer, ends up running for his life from Saul, living in caves because he was doing the right thing. You think about Job. He was singled out because he was so good and living so right. And that's why Satan caused him all those problems. Not because they were doing wrong, they were going along doing the things that they should be doing, and these bad things happen. So, why are these children's stories? Why are they even in the Bible? Because of the rest of the story, right? Because of the way things turn out. Because Daniel's thrown into a den of lions and they don't hurt him. God sends his angel to close the mouths of the lions. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are thrown into a fiery furnace and they come out not even smelling like smoke, totally unharmed. David goes on to become a conquering king. Romans chapter 15, verse 4 tells us, "For whatever was written in former days was written for our instruction, that through endurance and through the encouragement of the scriptures, we might have hope." These things are written for us to see the results of endurance, of people continuing to have faith in God in spite of the circumstances. We can draw encouragement from these stories because we see that even in the lion's den, God is there to protect. And that in the fiery furnace, God was not practicing social distancing. The king noticed he had thrown 3 men into the fiery furnace, but now he could see 4. And one of them looked like a son of God, he said. God was with them in the fiery furnace. In the story of Joseph, as he's sold as a slave in Egypt, the Bible tells us the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered even as a slave. And when he ends up in prison because he's falsely accused, when he was doing the right thing, he gets in trouble. Again, it says the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered and eventually became second in command of all of Egypt. These things are written down for us that we might have hope, that we might know that God will be with us in the midst of our trials, to know that we have a God who works all things together for good for those who love him. Romans 8:28 tells us. In a lion's den, a fiery furnace, or a coronavirus quarantine. We have a book full of examples of God's power, of his love, and of his care and protection for his people. If this lockdown is getting to you, if you're concerned and worried about this coronavirus, read some of these stories again and find encouragement in God's power and protection, that we can learn endurance and find encouragement from the scriptures. For whatever was written in former days was written for our instruction, that through endurance and through the encouragement of the scriptures, we might have hope.